14-1. And a good day to you, Explorer Nation. Happy 2022. I hope the new year is off to a good start for everyone. It is certainly off to a good start for our guest today, the head coach of Explorer Basketball, one of the great young talents in Dade County in the state of Florida. It's my pleasure to introduce Coach Andrew Moran. Andrew, welcome, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really excited about this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. You know, your team is off to a great start right now, no doubt. 14-1, ranked number 1 in the state in 7A. But we'll get to that. We'll get to the present, and the best way to get to the present is to start with the past. So, you're a Gables graduate, class of 2000. Played
Correct.
basketball. You have tangential connections to Columbus High School, which we'll build on later. But we want to start, Andrew. I mean, basketball has been your life. When did you develop your love of the game of basketball?
Really at a really young age. My dad, my dad played basketball in college, and there's 5 kids in my family, but I'm the youngest I'm the third boy.
Okay.
Even though my older sister played as well, we always, I mean, as early as I can remember, we're playing basketball. And then, my dad's taking us to the park to play pickup games. And as you get to that right age, you're able to kind of jump in with the older guys. So, I would say as early as first, second, third grade, we were already finding love for the game and wanting to be around it.
Were you one of those kids, Andrew, that just couldn't get enough? I mean, because the great thing about basketball, unlike football, baseball, whatever, you can play basketball by yourself all you want.
Yeah.
So one of those kids that couldn't just get enough of it.
Absolutely. And you only need, even if you want to play some games, you only need a couple of your friends to jump out on the court, and there's courts everywhere. So we're always playing. And I was, when I lived in Houston, we played in the street. Someone had a portable hoop there, and we, had a lot of neighborhood friends there, and we just come out and play pickup games in the street. So it was, obviously, like you said, easy to play, easy to find people to play. And it's just, it's a lot of fun.
It is. It's a great game to just let yourself go. And so you go to Gables, you play at Gables. Did you have an epiphany moment, Andrew, when you realized, I want to be a basketball coach, I want to make a career in basketball? Like, for example, I knew I wanted to be a history teacher at the age of 14 when I had Carter Burris in world history. I knew I wanted to teach at Columbus. How did that work for you?
So I would say it was more so when I was in college, where I was like, and I was thinking, I'm also a trainer now. At the time, there was really no career as a quote unquote trainer, basketball trainer. So you're gonna lean towards coaching. So I would say somewhere in college, as I used to help out. Well, I used to go play pickup games with the Florida State team because my brother was on the team. And then I used to help out on the women's side in terms of scouting and being part of the scout team. And I just kind of started enjoying, like, you could see like what coaches did and the time that they put in. And, they're showing us what the other team runs, and then, we're being a part of it. So I would say around college, did I know I would be an actual coach? I'm not 100% sure, but I knew that I wanted to be around the game as much as possible because I really loved it.
Okay. Now you did go ahead.
And before you continue, because I went to Gables and I was actually a part of one of the greatest Columbus games that has ever happened, and the guy who did it is actually a really good friend of mine, Al Prendes. But
yes. Al is a great man, and boy, oh boy, some daggers that night, huh?
Yeah. But it was good. It's part of the game. I had just moved to Miami, so I had no idea of the rivalry there. And then, but obviously I was on the losing end of that game, but looking back, it was pretty fun game to be a part of,
Oh, absolutely. You know, and it's great that Alex makes a living as a gambler because he's got no fear. And,
Yeah,
you know, all
yeah.
in, baby. Go big or go home. That's him. Uh, so you did start coaching at Miami High. You're an assistant there. How was that experience at Miami High as an assistant coach?
Um, I mean, honestly, I think I learned a lot there. You know, obviously they have a history of winning at Miami
Great.
High.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and I just learned the amount of work that you need to put in, and the focus and the consistency, um, of how much time they put in to be a great team. So in terms of the work ethic and all that, I mean, they had it there, um, just because that's the only way to get it done. If you really want it, you got to put the time in with anything that you do. But
Sure.
being there and coaching under Marcus Carreño, who is my best friend, that's his brother.
Mhm.
Um, that w- that was just a really nice start for me to really see what it takes to really take your team to the top.
Now you like working with kids, obviously. Did you ever consider, because let's face it, a lot of coaches are teachers because
Right.
coaching is just teaching outside and vice
Right.
versa. Did you ever consider education or did you just enjoy the game of basketball?
No, I taught for 5 years.
Okay.
I
Okay.
was a teacher at Doral Academy for 5 years. I actually taught history.
Okay.
I taught U.S. history. I taught a little bit of some speech classes, and then a few PE courses as time went on. But yeah, um, I was a teacher for a while. I really enjoyed being in the classroom. I just didn't think that was my long term place to stay. Although, like you said, I knew I had an affinity for teaching kids, but I didn't. After 5 years of teaching, I didn't feel like my place was in the classroom. It was more outside and more interactive. Obviously, and with basketball, I can do that more. And during that time, I had also, while I was teaching, I started my training business, and that just began to grow, and it kept taking more and more of my time. And I was blessed enough to let teaching go and still be able to make a living, not just for me, but my wife was, at that time, we already had one child and she had two on the way. So it
Wow.
was
Yeah.
it was kind of a big leap. But I tell you what, when I gave up teaching and went full time, the training really blew up and started to go really well.
Let's talk about Miami Hoop School, Andrew, which you opened in 2012. That's a leap of faith right there. It truly is, and it's very entrepreneurial. Uh, what gave you the idea, the notion that you could make a living training kids to play basketball? Where did this idea start?
So I when I started training, I thought, okay, I know the game. I'm training these kids, they're improving, but I always also had this thing in my mind where I needed to improve as a trainer as well and just continue to grow. So what I did was I started researching trainers, which there weren't a lot, but there were a few out there, I would say you can count on your hand, that were actually doing it as a business and doing well in the whole country, or for the world for that matter.
Okay.
Um, and I just found them through YouTube and other avenues, and I liked what they were doing, and that's where my first idea came of, hey, I can really do this. Now, from that time until it was probably 3 years later where I actually went full time into it. But what I did was I found these guys, and wherever they were working, where they were doing camps, I would just email them and ask them if I could come work for free. Um, and just be there and help and learn and take notes and become better and look what their style was and find the different styles of these guys and kind of create and take mine and create my own. Um, so I would say in that third year, as I was a teacher, I realized I can do this as a business, and really really focus on it. And, you know, I don't come from a family where business is a thing. Everyone just gets a job and works, you know. But what I did understand was, and I realized I kind of got about five, you know, mentors who ran their own businesses, were older than me, and none of them had to do with basketball, but just business wise. And I always tried to stay in contact with them and speak to them often, and pick their brain, and, you know, took some of their advice, and then some of it I just said, oh, I don't know if that's going to work here. And just with trial and error, here I am. And a lot of things happened throughout that time. I've traveled around the world doing camps, which honestly I never thought that would be something that I would be doing. So I've traveled to Spain, Argentina, Panama, Puerto Rico, all Spanish speaking countries for the most part. And I've also traveled around the country and done some camps. So um, it started off slow, and then kind of grew pretty quickly. I tried to place myself in certain places where there was opportunity, and just tried to be ready for those opportunities when they came my way.
You know, and getting the opportunity is one thing. Taking advantage of it is a totally different thing. And obviously you have. So a question I'm sure a lot of people would like to know is, how did you go from training kids to training NBA All-Stars? How did that? There had to be some kind of key moment, pivotal moment when a door opened and you stepped through it. Can you take us through that?
Yeah. So early on, I was actually able to help out, uh, just kind of help out in some workouts with some NBA guys. There was a guy who was training Mario Chalmers, uh,
Okay.
and I was able to help. And I would say that would be my first step towards that direction. And not that I didn't really train guys after that for probably another 2 years, 3 years from that particular time. But I would say that would be my first step in that direction. I also, you know, felt like I created a lot of great relationships throughout the Miami community, whether not just basketball, but just in the community. And,
Mm.
you know, to be honest, my name, when I started training a couple guys, I had some friendships with Derek Delagrana. His father's an assistant on the Heat. When I opened my warehouse, they brought some guys over, and I was able to work with them.
Okay.
And then shortly after that, Tim Hardaway Jr.
Mhm.
Uh, reached out to me to start working. And then it just kind of organically grew from there. And then when it really jumped off was Excel is one of the top agencies in the NBA. They moved and created an office here in Miami, built an office in Miami, and my name was thrown in their pot about 5 times, and they ended up going with me to do their pre-draft stuff, which is workouts that guys
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
prior to the NBA draft, and then it's just been growing from there, and I've been really blessed. So I would say, you know, and it's funny because this whole season with the team, we've been speaking about not just opportunity, but being ready for the moment. Um, we've been able to play in some cool games already this year against top
Mhm.
teams, and be in different places where there's just opportunity there. There's people watching that can give you other opportunities later, and that's been our big thing is being ready for your moment and being ready for your opportunity.
So let's talk about coaching for a second, because through a series of events, you ended up taking over Miami Christian and guiding them to a state title in 2015. So that had to be quite a journey to take a team over after through some incidents and guiding them all the way to the state title. How did that come about? I know it came about through your training
Yeah.
indirectly, but go ahead.
So yeah, so I had trained a bunch of the kids there on the team, and they, you know, they had some issues with coaches, and it was, I would say, I don't know if it was right midway, but almost midway through the season, one of the coaches stepped down and was out, and they continued to call me. Wasn't something I wanted to do, but in the end, I took it, and that's how I lost all my hair. Right. So I had a little bit left up to that point, and when I took the job in the first 2 weeks, it was gone. No, but it was an extremely talented team.
Yeah.
Um, if you look at them now, I mean, three or four of them played Division One. There was two Division Two guys and a Division Three player, and I mean that's a pretty talented team for high school. So it wasn't. It's funny because it was my first um, head coaching job, and you think when you're coaching, you're thinking X's and O's, and with that team, it wasn't. It wasn't really. You didn't really need to focus on a whole lot of X's and O's. You need to focus on how they can just mesh and do it together and have chemistry.
Chemistry. Yeah.
Because each one of those players could go to their own individual team and probably score 20 to 25 points a game. But that wasn't going to happen here because there's only one ball. But
5 guys, 1 ball.
correct.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about it was at the time the Spurs were just such a great team, and they probably had about 4 or 5 guys averaging double digits points. And I just kind of used them as a model, and I think it worked. I mean, we ended up winning. I'm not sure if that clicked with them at all, but you know, the kids bought in, and we were able to win a state championship. And now you got one of them playing over in Europe, in the Euro League in London. There's another kid playing in Lithuania. One of them just got signed in Georgia, and there's another player playing in Portugal, and one is still in college. So to me, that's really awesome to see because, you know, as a player, I remember wanting to play professional and to be able to coach guys, and they end up making it professional. Some of them played also in the G League.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was, I think, offered a 10-day contract recently, but he turned it down just because he didn't want to. He has good things going over there, and he didn't want to give them up. But it's been cool to watch them grow, not just as players, but as men, because you know there's a lot more to basketball than just basketball. Once you get to that, especially once you get to that stage, you know.
Of course. So you do that. You go back to training, and then Columbus High School. You've got some tangential connections. Your wife and sister-in-law played for Chris McKeon at Lord's.
Mm-hmm.
You've known Jose Mas. So you were aware of Columbus. You were, you knew Columbus City.
Yeah, and a lot of my friends were from Columbus. And as a matter of fact, I knew about you when I first moved to Miami because my friend Billy always raved about you as the history teacher, right? You know, I don't know if you remember Billy Krause, but
oh yeah, I remember Billy. Yeah,
he
different times.
You're a legend, man. You're a legend in the classroom there. But you know, obviously Alex Prentice is a good friend of mine. He played at Columbus. A lot of guys went to Columbus. My brother-in-law played at Columbus as well.
Yeah, Johnny.
Yeah. And Columbus, you know, I was doing the training, and people always asked me if I was going to get a high school job or coach. And, you know, there were only 2 jobs that I thought I would consider, and Columbus being the top one. And honestly, I had no idea it was even going to come my way. I just thought and felt, and I didn't even know. You know, you hear about the brotherhood and you hear about the support and you see the love and the affinity that the alumni have for it, but you don't really understand it until you're in it. So, you know, I just, you know, and then the opportunity came up, and here I am. You know, I didn't, this is not something that I expected, to be honest, nor did I envision myself. You know, I envisioned myself doing other, you know, in my career, doing some things. I did not think that I would be at Columbus coaching, but I've really enjoyed it so far, and I really enjoy being a part of the Columbus family.
Yeah, the Columbus Brotherhood thing, it can't be explained. It can only be experienced. And you fit in very, very well. You get it. And it's funny about Columbus, the 3 main sports. If you look at them, in the last 40 years at Columbus in football, there's been 3 head coaches. Dennis Lavelle, Chris Merritt, Dave Dunn. In baseball, in the last 30 some odd years, there's been two, Brother Herb and Joe Weber. In 60 years at Columbus High School, there's been Dick Pollock, Brother Kevin, obviously, Butch Diano, Henley Lorenzo, who Johnny, your brother-in-law, played for, and now you. So these are obviously very important positions. These decisions aren't made lightly. And so you stepped into, high expectations because, yes, baseball has won state titles. Football's won a state title. Now, focus is on basketball. So when you got to Columbus, I think adapting to how things are done there, how long did it take you to figure it out?
Well, I'll tell you, in my first season, I felt like I learned about 3 seasons worth of learning there. We had some nice talent. And again, when you have talent, it's not always so much about X's and O's. It's getting them to really come together. And that was probably the most difficult job I had to do. And I don't think I got it all together, to be honest with you. I don't think we brought it all together. And if we were able to do it that year, I don't know what we would have done, but I think we would have gone a little bit further. So during that year, I felt like I learned so much, just learning how to speak, learning how to talk to the kids, learning different ways of motivation, learning how to deal with the outside noise. So for me, that first year, although it was extremely stressful, it was extremely important for me going forward. It allowed me to kind of stay calmer as a coach because, your players kind of take on your personality, of how your approach is. So if you're kind of stressed out, they're going to be a little stressed out. If you're more relaxed and motivated, they're going to be right there. And I think that's allowed me so my first year, we made it to the first round of regionals. We ended up losing to Western. They gave us a little spanking there. And then the following year, we actually made it all the way to the regional final. And again, we lost to Western. They gave us a nice beat down. But, sometimes it takes some hard losses to get really to your ultimate goal. And so right now we're just working and taking it one game at a time. And I think that's a lot of why we had success so far. We've really tried to focus one game at a time, prepare for that game, and have the kids prepared, bring the right energy. And it gets hard because sometimes you're playing very talented teams and then you may not play as a talented team. And you got to find ways to motivate the kids because we're trying to improve every game, whether the team is great or whether the team is not as strong. We want to continue to find ways to motivate them that we can improve.
Yeah, you don't want to play down to a lesser opponent.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
I was speaking to Mr. McKeon about you the other day, and he called you a player's coach, and that's an interesting label because people take that different ways. Sometimes a player's coach is considered a guy, he just let the players do what they want, roll the ball out, and that's it. I think in this case, though, and probably because you've dealt with college level players, with NBA players, you're a player's coach because you can relate to all aspects of the game. You can be a player's coach and still have discipline, still have standards, still have expectations. So what is your definition of a player's coach?
I think a player's coach is just having that relationship with the player that's just not only focused on basketball. I think being able to know them and understand them allows you to coach them better. And then they start to understand, okay, because each guy is I like to say it. Everyone is not coached the same.
Good.
Everyone is coached equally different. That's what I say, right? Some guys you need to kind of get on them a little more and maybe raise your voice a little bit to get their attention. Whereas others, if you do that, they kind of shy
They shut
away.
down. Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to know how to reach them because everyone's reached in a different way. I also have a really good assistant coach, George Milo, who really helps me out with that as well. But I think just being able to relate to the kids and have relationships with them, and not only that, we're like you said, I train, so the fact that they know we can develop, right? Because when you're doing development, that's more like, oh, he's helping me on my personal game, right? Sometimes, people get upset. Maybe the coach is only focusing on team, which we're in season. That's where our focus is. But off season, we're really looking to their individual game and see where we can improve on their game because, everyone wants to become a more skilled player. And I think because we have that aspect as well, it really creates a better relationship and allows you to relate to them better. And, we keep it light. We like to have fun. And then I also like to teach them, hey, there's a time for this, for us to joke around. But then when it's time to get serious, we got to get serious. And they know because I like to joke around a lot, but they know when I'm serious, it's time to be serious. So we can joke and enjoy each other, but we also got to enjoy each other during the time where we're locked in and focused.
When it's time to work, it's time to work. Because yes, basketball is fun. Of
Absolutely.
all the major sports, it's the most fun to play, and it's a joyful game. But a lot of work goes into making that joy,
Yeah.
and uh, and so that if I had ever coached basketball, I think that would be the biggest challenge because football's football. It's there's not a lot of fun per se in football. There's a lot
No?
of fun in basketball.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, there's
and
a lot of action, consistent action in
yes,
basketball,
yeah,
So,
yes. Um, I don't like to add, questions like who's the best, yada, yada, yada. But who were some of your favorite players growing up?
so I would say one of my favorite or my two favorites, as a young kid when I was growing up in Houston was probably Vernon Maxwell and Charles Barkley. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like the way that they played the game in terms of they just played so hard and aggressive and reckless abandon.
Yeah.
And it's funny
Vernon.
because I've been able to meet Vernon Maxwell just like this past summer. So it was pretty cool. But you're growing up, Vernon, just because I lived in Houston, he played for Houston, and then Charles Barkley, I just liked how he plays with such reckless abandon and he's undersized and did so well in his position.
Even at the
Um,
end of his career in Houston, he
yeah,
still had that. And Vernon never saw a shot he wouldn't take.
yeah,
So
yeah.
fearless,
And I
fearless.
would say later, I really enjoyed watching Steve Nash, and then, um, I mean, maybe this one everyone will get upset, but I really enjoy Steph Curry. I love shooters, and I really enjoy the way he plays because I don't know, it's just the way the ball moves on the Warriors and how they share it is just it's beautiful basketball. Um,
All right. Question for you. You just mentioned Steve Nash. How important is your point guard?
no, I think it's extremely important. It's the guy who is the coach on the floor. It's the guy who um, gets us into our offense, and then he's the guy that can get people going that are struggling a little bit, and that's the way I see it. You have to notice, well, we got to get this guy going. So you got to find ways to get him open and find ways to get his confidence flowing. So I think the point guard is extremely important because he's the coach on the floor, um, and we want him to get the ball in the spots where we want the ball to be. So for him, he's the floor general. He controls the pace of the game, and he controls where the ball goes. So extremely important.
Steph Curry, one of the greatest shooters of all time. How do you deal with a kid
I
A
think
natural.
he's the greatest shooter of all
Yeah,
time.
I
Just
mean,
I'll just put
sure.
that one out there.
Yeah. How do you deal with a kid who's a shooter who's struggling? What do you do when a kid just can't throw it in the ocean from a dock? What do you do?
I mean, I just continue to try to keep his confidence up. Um, and I don't get down when he misses, and I don't get too high when he makes it, because I want it to be, this is a normal thing. You're a shooter, you're going to do it. Some will go in, some will not. And maybe and shooters go sometimes through a little bit of a struggle or a drought, right? But I don't. They got to keep shooting, because the only way to make shots is to shoot shots. So you're not going to make more if you don't shoot more. You know what I mean? Now we want them to take good shots, obviously,
Okay.
right? So we're
Yeah.
saying search out good shots, but we want him to keep shooting, because we need shooters. The shooters spread the floor and they allow the other guys to do more, because they shoot well, because it's harder to help, you know, and they may think twice about helping as much, because you have guys that can shoot. So I want them to keep shooting. I think in any sport, if you build the kids up and you instill in them confidence, they're going to give you their best, and they're going to perform better. Obviously, they'll make their mistakes, but they are going to perform at a high level.
Hopefully, they become a reflection of your expectations.
Correct. That would be great if that happened.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Rebounding. Rebounding is an art. What makes a great rebounder, Andrew?
Well, first of all, it starts with effort. You got to actually want it. It's one of those stats that you could be as selfish as you want,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
That's what we tell the kids. You can be as selfish as you want with the rebounds, because and that's actually something we've struggled with this season, because we have our guards hadn't been rebounding very well, and we've been really honing in on that and wanting the guards to get in there and help, because we obviously have Cameron Boozer 6'8", and we have Malik Abdullah who's 6'7", and they obviously do the majority of our rebounding. But other teams have great rebounders as guards, and our guards need to step it up. And we don't have small guards. We have some pretty good sized guards in Caden Boozer and Benny Fragella and Jalen Velasquez and other guys that come in. Garen Bess also. So rebounding is first and foremost takes effort. Secondly, putting a body or boxing out obviously is important, and then going to get the ball and kind of reading it as as you're a basketball player, you can kind of read how balls are going to come off the rim and anticipate where they're going to go. Obviously, Dennis Rodman was probably the best at that.
Yeah.
And he said in a little video that he would watch the trajectory of the ball, and he kind of learned as to which way it was going to come off. And I mean, I think that's incredible thing to do. But rebounding, it's extremely important.
It's the dirty work of basketball. It's like being offensive lineman in football. Somebody's got to do it, Let me ask you, Andrew, if you could sit down for 15 minutes with a couple of coaches and just pick their brain, college, NBA, whatever, who would you talk to? That you haven't spoken to already, perhaps.
I actually was able to speak to Steve Kerr, which, because obviously he has great players, but there's a certain way you speak to those players as well. So I would say Steve Kerr. I'd like to have just kind of more of a one-on-one. I'd love to speak to Coach K.
Okay.
And I've never had I really like Eric Spoelstra. I've never really had a one-on-one. I've met him, but never. I mean, I think he gets the most out of his players.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I would really love to just be in in the room when he's speaking to the guys, and what words he uses and how he motivates, and how he directs, because it's there's certain things that you can say and that cause players to click, and I just love to hear little tidbits that they give the guys uh, to motivate them and get them going, and then just understanding how he looks at individual players and how he figures out where he can maximize their potential. Um, so
You mentioned the Spurs earlier. Greg Popovich is a person I'd love to talk to.
definitely one of the greatest. You know what? You know why he still is fiery. He's more of the old school fiery coach, and most of the time guys are like, oh, you can't scream at NBA players, and I think he got on them a little bit, and I'd love to see how he built that type of relationship as well, where he can get on them as well as just kind of direct them. But yeah, he'd be definitely one of the greats to speak to. I'd also like to kind of sit down with the Zen master Phil Jackson and get a few tidbits from him.
Yeah, he had to manage a few egos now, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he did well. Talent's one thing, like you said earlier. Sometimes it goes beyond the X's and O's.
Right.
All up here,
Yeah.
one ball, five guys, submit the ego to the greater good. And you got some great players this year, brother. You do, no
Yeah.
doubt. I mean, Cameron and Caden Boozer. Carlos Boozer was a tremendous player in the NBA.
Yeah.
Obviously, his sons have picked up on that. So with talent comes expectations, and you're off to a great start. So what are your day-to-day expectations for this team with the big goal in sight down the road?
So I would say, with the coaching staff, we're always trying to figure out, ways we can improve. Um, and obviously, there's definitely. I know we've won a lot, but as we watch film, there's areas where we can improve. Which, for one, I mentioned already, rebounding.
Yeah,
Um, uh, we do a great job sharing the ball, but I think sometimes we go away from it, and we can definitely share the ball more. Um, so like I told you, we try to take it one game at a time, and really hone in on that game and the game plan and what you need to do and how we're going to improve. But it's when you're winning a lot, sometimes it becomes difficult. How do you continue to improve? How do you continue to
sure.
improve? Um, so what we're doing is we watch a ton of film. This team is very cerebral. I think we have guys that understand the game really well, and I think when we show them film, it really helps them. Not just to see the other team, but when we show them films of themselves, they understand. Oh, okay, this is where I need to improve. This is what I can do. Um, and obviously, you say high expectations, but I like it. I like it when I have expectations. I like it when I'm supposed to win, because that means I have a good team, right?
Yeah,
If I'm
right.
projected, then I'm lucky enough to have a team that, if that's that the goal is to win anyways, right? Everyone wants to win a championship. So if you have expectations for me to win, then I'm doing something right, because I want to win. So I don't mind it. Um, to be great, you have to play under pressure. You have to coach under pressure. You have to get through those moments. And I think our team does a good job of staying even keel, right? In the game, there's ups and downs. We
Sure.
can't get too high. We can't get too low. And we talk about that. We want to stay right there and hover right around that middle ground. And I think that's good. We've played Saturday and Friday, and the games were tough. The teams were tough and physical, and we didn't have the cleanest of games. We didn't have the greatest of games. Could be sloppy at times, but what I see in the team is that they continue to play hard, and they continue to defend. We really defend, I think, at a high level, and I really think that's what sets us apart. And then we have guys who are decision makers. A lot of guys talk about Cameron Bruiser, and He's 6'8", and he's very skilled, and he could shoot, and he could play all positions. But what separates him from everyone else is his understanding and his decision making, right? So him and his brother make a lot of decisions, and because of their decision making, that's what elevates them, and that's what essentially separates. If you take a look at Jokic on the Denver Nuggets,
Sure.
he's big, he's pretty skilled, he's not athletic, but the guy knows the game and he reads the game really well, and he won MVP last year for a reason.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's not only the skill set that you have, but it's the understanding of the game and the decision makings that if you want to be a great player and a great team, that's what's going to set you apart. Because we're going to go up against teams that are more athletic than us. We're going to go up with teams that are probably stronger than us. So we have to be smarter. We have to execute game plans, and we have to continue to make better decisions.
high basketball IQ will take you a long way.
Correct.
Desire to win. We could keep going forever, Andrew, and I would love to, but I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
What do you love most about basketball?
Well, I'll tell you, when I'm playing, it's like it gives me a very peace of mind. When I'm around the game, I can kind of free my mind of stress. I still play in men's leagues and I enjoy it. It's, continues to give you that competitive drive because I want to win in those games as well. And then in terms of coaching, and what I've learned over the last couple of years, it's really enjoyable to watch players grow and become better players. And then, I'm starting to see guys go to the next level. At least from the Columbus guys, we got a couple guys that went off to play this year, and that's also enjoyable to watch them continue to reach their goals and their dreams. So, winning is fun and all that, but I think it's really enjoyable to watch the players grow and become better players that they want to be, and then go off and become not just better players, but if we can get them to become better men as well, I think that's the main goal. So,
Hoop dreams, baby. Hoop dreams.
yeah.
Absolutely. Andrew, I've had a blast, and I'm glad we had the opportunity to do this. Listen, all the luck in the world, but I don't think you guys need luck this year. Just keep working hard, and good things are going to happen. So we'll be watching. Thank you again, and this has been a pleasure, my friend.
No, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on with a legend. I know you don't think that, but
Yeah,
you're talked about very often in this Columbus community.
I appreciate that, Andrew. Of course, being a legend is just another way of saying you're old, but that's cool. I'm still.
No, man. Listen, you were a legend already back when I was still in high school. So,
Oh man, I appreciate that, Andrew. So we'll do this again, and I look forward to it. And so, on behalf of Coach Moran, Explore Nation, thank you for viewing this one. It's been a lot of fun. We got some good ones ahead, some surprises. So, as
nice.
always, take care of yourselves. Take it easy, and Adelante. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.